Hello there and welcome to the Bonofo channel where we go back in history to learn from the past, understand the events that are happening now, and try to look forward into the future. Today we will discuss the potential future president of Eritrea. Yes, the country that had the same president for all its history. Eritrea, one of the youngest countries in the world, gained its independence in 1993 after decades of war. It is located in East Africa, more specifically the Horn, and has around 4 million people. Its capital is Asmara, and the GDP is around $2.12 billion. It shares a border with Ethiopia, Djibouti, Sudan, and has direct access to the Red Sea. Many Eritreans today have grown up hearing stories about how their fathers and mothers, uncles and aunts, fought in the war. After gaining independence, some thought that Eritrea would become a flourishing democracy with fair elections and a country where human rights are respected, but that never happened because of one man called Isaias Afwerki. Isaias Afwerki was born on February 2, 1946 in Asmara while it was still part of Ethiopia, and went to Prince Makonnen High School. After high school, he joined the Haile Selassie University in Addis Ababa to study engineering, but quit to join the Eritrean Liberation Front, also known as ELF, in Sudan. From there, people were sent across to Egypt, Syria, and other Arab nations to receive military training, and he was transferred to China to do the same in an attempt to overthrow the Emperor of Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, and later the dictator Mengistu Haile Mariam. After much internal fighting and the death of Abraham Tawald, the former commander of Zone 5 in battle, Isaias became the leader. Using the tactics that he learned in China, Isaias and his troops would hide in the mountains and strike the Ethiopian military in its weak spots. In 1971, a group of ELF members formed the Eritrean People's Liberation Front, EPLF for short, and elected Afwerki as Vice Secretary General. With the collapse of the Soviet Union, which aided Ethiopia's dictator Mengistu Haile Mariam, and the help of foreign intervention from the USA, Egypt, Somalia, and other Arab nations, and internal liberation fronts such as the TPLF and OLF, the war ended in 1991, and Isaias became the Secretary General of the Provisional Government of Eritrea. In 1994, EPLF was renamed the People's Front for Democracy and Justice, PFDJ, and Isaias was elected Secretary General. Throughout that time, Isaias was considered by the West to be a good quality leader that would bring peace and stability to the region and make the people of Eritrea prosperous after years of war, hunger, and disease, but Isaias had a different plan all along. While the people of Eritrea were still celebrating their victory, and the West calling him the great hope of Africa, Isaias planned his power grab. He canceled the constitution, the elections, and arrested the press, opposition leaders, ministers, including his vice president, and anyone that could pose a danger to his rule. Basically, he came to power claiming that he would free his people from Emperor Selassie, then the dictator Mengistu, but ended up just grabbing all the power to himself and oppressed the country and its people for 30 years, which is not what he said he would do back in 1993 when he criticized other African leaders for staying in power for too long. Eritrea today is one of the poorest countries in the world with a mandatory military service, which can last indefinitely, and its citizens flee whenever they can, with studies estimating that at least 10% of the population has left the country. This is not an easy escape because they have to face wild animals, dangerous smugglers, disease, hunger, thirst, and many more difficulties. Even members of the Eritrean soccer team who participated in a tournament in a foreign country escaped with their coach to avoid coming back. This led to the Eritrean government forcing athletes to pay around $7,000 to participate in tournaments in different countries. When it comes to the newspapers, press, and journalists, Isaias adopted the common strategy of having strict control and allowing only one channel called Eritrea, which constantly talks about the supposed success of the Eritrean independence and great work of Isaias as its leader, but never mentions the dark side of the government and the poor condition of Eritrea. Isaias claims that Eritrea needs to enlist all the young people and maintain its large military to fight against potential Ethiopian invasions. But by enlisting all the young people, Isaias can have tighter control over potential rebels and revolutionaries, who are usually healthy young men and women that form groups and discuss ideas, which is harder to do under the strict supervision of the military and Isaias. Those who refuse to join the military would be labeled as traitors or spies for the Ethiopians and the West and be put behind bars for years. It is said that the majority of soldiers are used as cheap labor for the government to do things such as sweeping the street or serving as construction workers for buildings and various other projects. Due to its inability to produce enough food, Eritrea's main imports are wheat, sorghum, but also machinery, fuel, and furniture. Its main exports are zinc, gold, and copper. Its main business partners are China, United Arab Emirates, South Korea, and Italy. Isaias Afwerki, who is not planning to give up his power anytime soon, is ruthless in his tactics, and is a very experienced politician, but also smart enough to know that he will not rule forever. So what is going to happen, and who is next in line? The first option is that Isaias, who is now 77 years old, and one of the most experienced leaders in East Africa, will die of old age or sickness, and his son would be the next president, similar to what happened in North Korea. Abraham Isaias, who is 38, and Afwerki's oldest son, is considered by many to be a potential future leader of Eritrea. For years there have been rumors circulating that Isaias was preparing him by teaching him how to deal with his ministers, foreign leaders, and probably gave him harsh information on how to crush any possible rebellion that may happen, and how to deal with inside people that may try to assassinate or depose him. The second option is that Isaias will be overthrown by one of his ministers or advisors. Here is a quick list of the people that may take power from Isaias. Yemen Jebrab, the head of political affairs and presidential advisor, is one of the people Isaias trusts most. If Yemen uses that trust to his advantage, and the connections he has with ministers and presidents of other nations, he may be able to overthrow Isaias. But it is important to note that Isaias is very experienced and does not fully trust anyone. There is a reason Eritrea does not have a vice president. Another option is Hagos Geberhiwot, the economic advisor to the PFDJ and the chief executive officer of Red Sea Trading Corporation, RSTC, can use his connections and the large amount of money he got through the RSTC to turn other ministers and other countries against Isaias. The next option is Abraha Kassan Amariam, the head of the Eritrean National Security Office, has access to very secretive information and connections with other foreign secret service agents that may assist him in taking over Eritrea. Similar to other countries, the next option is related to the military, and his name is Philippos Woldiohans, Chief of Staff of the Eritrean Defense Forces, may get enough soldiers and high-ranking military officials to support him and overthrow the government. Although the people that were mentioned may have a chance at overthrowing Isaias, it is unlikely that they will get the support of the Eritrean people, because Eritreans know that they will most likely just continue to do what Isaias did and control the country with fake or no elections. The third option is a revolution by the Eritrean people aided by foreign nations to overthrow the current government. The Eritrean people are not new to war, and if things get to such a point that they can't take it anymore, they might form militias and liberation fronts to fight the government. Since Isaias and his people have a lot of experience when it comes to combat and wars. It may become a very bloody conflict since the supporters of the current government know that they will have to fight to the death or escape the country, since it is unlikely that they will receive mercy or keep their wealth. Eritreans also know that foreign intervention can potentially leave them in a worse situation, and is not always the best option. Overall, it would be very interesting to see what will happen in the future and how Eritrea will look like moving forward. The events that affect Eritrea and its people can also directly affect neighboring countries such as Ethiopia, Sudan, and Djibouti, and possibly the entire world. This has been Bonofo, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe.